Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. I am the West African correspondent, Edward Amara. Welcome to this weekend special edition on Nigeria. Nigeria is a big brother country, well known and recognized in Africa and the world at large. Nigeria is a country maybe with phenomenal legacy. It has, on numerous occasions, established peculiar history on the continent and the world at large. We are now observing and seeing transformation in that part of the world, especially on the west coast of Africa. We have seen Nigeria being established into the world market, economic. It has involved itself into warring situations. And I think Nigeria's history on the continent is absolutely impeccable, unshakable, indelible, and sometimes worth emulation. However, latest development into that part of the continent and the west coast of Africa has never been fanciful, has never been worth emulating, and maybe some people would think that it is an unpredictable and unmerited failure the country is facing. Some people can even assume that Nigeria is facing a state or a phase in its life that they will rank it as a state failure. So welcome, you have the opportunity to participate, to drop your comment. We are watching that Nigeria Buhari leaves a legacy of kidnapping, inflation, and debt. So specifically today's program, we'll watch at Nigeria's Buhari's legacy. Nigeria's Buhari legacy. What type of legacy is Buhari leaving for Nigeria? That is a legacy that we are actually observing, and we want to analyze it and get things done. Maybe nobody expected that a man who maybe in the 80s was well established. His body language spoke. He established an impeccable leadership style on the country. When he took over, we have seen a lot of things happening. Maybe optimism. We all heard and saw the euphoria. Maybe we have people we are so certain. Some people we are so sure that what happens during the Goodluck Jonathan era will definitely become history. But unfortunately, since he took over in 2015, we saw, we heard, we witnessed a lot of political setback. And maybe setback that are even worse than recorded during the Goodluck Jonathan's regime. Some people were even doubting whether they were right to voting for change. They needed change. But change can either be positive or negative. Although normally we say it is only the girls and fools that do not change. But each time you are advocating for change, I believe that that change should either be positive or negative. And each time we yearn for political change, especially when we want to change our decision makers, we think and feel that those decision makers who have not performed very well, who maybe performances in terms of making political decisions, we are not worth emulating, we are not excellent, we are not spectacular. Maybe you think that they have failed the nation, they have failed to live up to their social contract, then let's make a change. As we are about to see such thing like that in both Liberia and Sierra Leone, we may either have a change or still remain to continue with the same system. So welcome to Focus on Liberia. I am their West African correspondent, Edward Amara, on this weekend special edition, Nigeria's Buhari legacy. Now, the headline says Nigeria Muhammadu Buhari leaves a legacy of kidnapping, inflation, and debt. Kidnapping, inflation, and debt. Maybe kidnapping started to take place during the Goodluck Jonathan era. And I think Buhari was popularly even elected when he used the Chibo girls who he had kidnapped. 200 Chibo girls who he had kidnapped. So it may not be exactly why he was elected, but it helped to establish his support, firm support, especially among disgruntled women. People who thought that that particular situation had led to the 200 kidnapping of the Chibo girls in the school was never fanciful. And the government failure to bring those girls back was termed as an assault. Maybe it could have been used as a final straw on the coffin of Goodluck Jonathan. He lost power. Buhari came in. There was huge optimism when Buhari was first elected in 2015. Huge optimism. When he stepped down next week, Buhari will be leaving Nigerians less secure. But when he's going to step down next week, Buhari will be leaving Nigerians less secure, poorer, and even more in debt than when he came into power in 2015. Nigeria will be stepping down next week. But Buhari will be stepping down next week. But these are some of the things he will leave behind, or he will be leaving behind. Leaving a less secure people, poorer, and more in debt than the time he took over in 2015. The former military ruler became president after winning a momentous election which saw the defeat of underperforming incumbent Goodluck Jonathan. He was definitely underperforming. People blame him. And it took up at a situation that the war economy just started to go into recess. The Chibo girls were kidnapped. By then, maybe we are having herdsmen, but not as strong as they are today. Then the kidnapping just started. Boko Haram had its own assault on the government. But the unpredictable kidnapping of the 200 Chibo girls led to the final nailing of Goodluck Jonathan's coffin. And when Buhari took over, taking into consideration that the man is a Muslim, he came from Katsina State, around those Kano end. And those fighting against the government are people who believe in, who are of Islam faith. And watching at all the situation, people thought that his military background, he ruled Nigeria in the 1980s, coupled with his military background, and taking into consideration that he's a Muslim also by faith, and those who are waging war against the government are predictably Muslims. So if Goodluck Jonathan, if Buhari can be elected instead of Goodluck Jonathan, they had a high hope. That is why they said there was high optimism when Buhari was first elected in 2015. But when he stepped down next week, Buhari will be leaving a less secure Nigeria, poorer and more in debt than the time he took in 2015. The former military leader became president after winning a momentous election, which saw the defeat of underperforming incumbent president, rigging a wave of, it was like riding a wave of optimism that change was possible. That was what Nigeria saying, change was possible. He rode that particular wave of optimism. He was supported by a powerful coalition. He was supported actually by a powerful coalition and had reputation of being a hard man soldier who would get things done immediately. That was why people were saying body language speak when he comes into power, because they knew when he was in the 1980s. But what they actually forgot was the fact that democracy is not like kakitocracy government. It is not like an authoritarian regime. It is not like a totalitarian. It is not like the junta regime. Then it was Nigeria authoritarian regime. When he took over in 2015, it was liberal democracy. It was not coalition that installed him in power in 1980s. It was coup d'etat. It was not election. It was the barrel. But in 2015, it was election. It was coalition. And by then still, it was not the same man. A man in his early 70s with a man who was by then in his early 40s. He took over in his early 70s in 2015. What was that connection? He was not just as strong as he used to be. Just like when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been elected. Do you expect him when he changed Lagos, when he used to be called Lagosians, Lagos boy? He's no longer like that. He's now old, not too strong to even watch at you and speak in your face. Maybe he's not the man that slaps people anymore. He's not that as powerful. He cannot even walk for complete 24 hours without falling sick. This is the Buhari that we're seeing. So, after Mr. Buhari, brief stint into the 1980s, his second coming was on the back of promises to curtail rampaging. These were some of the promises that he made to curtail rampaging Islamic insurgents in the northeast and tackle widespread corruption. The rampaging Islamic insurgents to the northeast, and he was also tasked with the responsibility of tackling widespread corruption. He is actually the last generation of British trained men who went on to govern Nigeria. The last generation of British trained men. You know, good Lord Jonathan, Olusegun Matthew Obasanjo was another soldier. You think about Babangida, was another soldier. You think about Sani Abacha. Some of these guys were soldiers. So the last British trained men to actually rule Nigeria is Buhari. And we pray and hope that no other Buhari comes into power. No other person with military background comes into power. Because this thing have never helped Nigeria. Never helped Nigeria. See, but the 80-year-old took year terms. Meaning he came into power when he was 72. Because Nigeria has democracy for 4 years. So if he's leaving power after 8 years, it's 80. So he came in power when he was 72. Now look at it. But the 80 years old 2 terms left many Nigerians disappointed. There have been gains in, actually, let's be frank, let's do like an needle. If you want to damage somebody, start from praising him. Watch at a young man, say this man is a very, very honest person, especially with matters or connected with money. Maybe Buhari, hardworking, he did everything. Let's see some of the things that he did. Let's be frank with his regime. Say the 80 years old time left many Nigerians disappointed. Absolutely disappointed. There have actually been gains in the fight against Boko Haram and other extremist groups in the northeast, aided by improved military hardware from the US. It was the same US who, under Goodluck Jonathan, they said they will not support Goodluck Jonathan with any arms and ammunition, sophisticated weapon, because Nigeria's human rights records are questionable. That was what they said. Goodluck Jonathan pleaded to them, give me weapons, let me flush out these guys. Help me. He said, no, we cannot aid you with weapons, arms, and ammunition. Your country's human rights record are questionable. So don't use our arms and ammunition to still continue to perpetrate violence. That was what they said. Okay, so we have seen improvement into the fight against Boko Haram, another extremist group. And also it had weapons, sophisticated weapons from the so-called United States of America. While the group still carry attacks on communities and military installations in the region. It's is a big improvement actually from the years when they operated freely. They control a large portion of the Nigerian territory, especially the Niger Delta, because the USA never supported Goodluck Jonathan. Just maybe. Mr. Buhari also utilized the Chinese loans to upgrade the ailing road. Utilize the Chinese, or maybe we will one day be analyzing George Weah legacy. He also utilized the Chinese loan to upgrade the ailing road and railway infrastructure, building the new port in Lagos, completing a crucial bridge in the the southeast. He completed a crucial bridge in the southeast and passing important electoral and oil sectors law. But I don't know, it was the same electoral law that they passed. They turned it into beaver system. Unfortunately, we are seeing now dragging the same system to court. Maybe the way are actually important, I agreed, but I don't know how did they work, or how is it working, or how did it work to save the country's maybe corrupt democracy. However, saying, when he was sworn in as president, Buhari said, "We fix our problems." That was what he said. In 2015, immediately was sworn into office, he said, "We will fix our problems." That was what the 72 years old said. We fix our problems. But whatever gains have been recorded in the Northeast against the Islamic militant have been actually eroded by the emergency of equally violent groups in other parts of the country under his watch. So all of those things that he gained, building of bridges, passing of oil and electoral sectors law, making railways, maybe having more arms and ammunition into the country, trying to curtail the activities of Boko Haram, other Islamic movement or extremist movement. We equally have other violent groups that almost eroded everything that he did. Everything that he did. It is actually sad. It is unexpected. And we are definitely not expecting a system like that. Because we need somebody maybe with fixed ideology, someone who will come and change the system positively. But in Nigeria today, I think almost everything that used to happen is still happening. Almost everything. Clashes between farmers and headmen from the Fulani ethnic group, which had smiled over the years. We are allowed to boil into a deadly armed rebellion, confrontations with ethnic elements. That is what is going on now, as the government ran out of ideas on how to solve the problem. We are animals could graze. These are the Fulanis are fighting. We are the animals could graze. And just because they don't have the means, they will end up to attack other people. You see, so we are seeing a situation. And Mr. Buhari hailed from the northern region in Katsina State. He was accused of being biased because the conflicts gave him the ultimatum to either support his Fulani tribesmen and risk losing votes, or choose to stick by them, and he should be accused of bias mentality. He said there should be a buffer land for the Fulani herdsmen to use it for animal grazing, which people in the southwest saw it as a form of land grabbing. They challenge him. So those groups end up to develop into armed bandits who are attacking people in Plateau State, in Anambra State, on motorbikes, macheting people on a daily basis, setting their houses or their homes ablaze, destroying their farmland, almost grabbing everything that they are seeing over there. And it's a matter of retaliation on a daily basis. Old Buhari could do nothing less rather than to condemn. But actions speak louder than words. Even when his election in 2019, he really knew that firm criticism will lead to drastic loss of votes into the north. So the old man sip his mouth. He could say nothing. He could say nothing. Now, we are seeing kidnapping for ransom on the rise. People are kidnapping for ransom on the rise. They will kidnap and kidnap and kidnap, and they will demand for ransom. Over 2,000 school pupils have been kidnapped under a regime, when only 200 during Goodluck Jonathan regime. Over 2,000 school people have been kidnapped under his regime, school pupils. So, we are seeing cattle headmen raiding communities, macheting people, attacking churches, killing for fun. So there is a complete bloodbath in Nigeria. That just happened. It's a complete bloodbath. He has worsened under a reason. The situation become worse than the PDP. Under the APC-led Nigeria, it is worse than the PDP-led Nigeria. Because all the problems that surface under Goodluck Jonathan heightened under Buhari, and those that were non-existent came into existence. So each time we are yearning for change, let's yearn for a positive change. Although we have those popular sayings, like somebody will say, it is only the gods and fools do not change. Yeah, the gods and fools do not change. But we are not fools, we are intelligent. Then when we are doing a change, let the change reflect. They say, let the end justify the means. If you say you are going to effect this change, then there must be something positive. There must be a development that you think necessitated that particular change. But if you cannot have sustainable things achieved after you effected a change, then there was even no need for you to effect the change. Maybe somebody can analyze Nigeria's current situation. You would agree with me that it would have been better, if not the best, had PDP left with them instead of the ruling APC now. That is what we are saying here. So, for instance, thousands of school children actually have the records. We are adopted between December 2020 and 2021, according to the UN Children Organization. This is what they are saying. Chief, the Eclipse 270 girls seized from the school in Chibok, who made global headlines in 2014, a crime that was a crucial factor in Mr. Buhari's defeating Jonathan. Let us listen to one farmer here. I thought that as a former military ruler, he would have the solution to Nigeria's security challenges. Musa Amadu, a farmer now living in the northwest state of Kano, told the BBC, Mr. Buhari, originally from the president home, Mr. Amadu, originally from the president home, state of Katsina, abandoned his farmland and fled to neighboring Kano alongside thousands of others because of the activities of armed groups in the region. An attack on the church in Ondo State that killed dozens of worshippers last year was just one of many violence. Sad. Many also believe that Mr. Buhari was mishandled. Mr. Buhari has mishandled dozens of worshippers. Mr. Buhari has mishandled the situation thrown up by separatist leader Nnamdi Kanu. You see, Mr. Kanu, head of the indigenous people of Biafra, some people call him IPOB, a group seeking for secession in the southeast, which is prescribed by government. He is a charismatic figure with a huge appetite for sectionalism, which he fed his devotees with by social media. He overlooked him. That was so bad. That was so bad. He said it is wrong to test the depth of a river with your two legs. You can't do that. You can't do that. IPOB was likely ignored anyway by many Nigerians until Mr. Kanu was first arrested for treason by Buhari in 2015. A subsequent state-sanctioned attack on the home marked by the beginning of an armed confrontation that has spiraled actually out of control, claiming hundreds of lives in the process after escaping 2017 arrest. Actually, he was finally abducted in a controversial circumstances in Kenya. In 2021, he was put on trial. Then, of course, he was sent back to Nigeria. Initially, the Supreme Court never wanted to listen to his trial, but because he was brought under controversial circumstances, he was living in asylum, he was never extradited, nobody knows who kidnapped him until the man was brought back to Nigeria. There are security challenges made by Buhari handling of a sector that was supposedly his. This also very, maybe you can say it's a disparaging act. Disparaging to me. Maybe it became outrageous. Sad reality. So I'm really surprised at the level of embarrassment he has brought to his constituency. I'm really surprised at the level of embarrassment he has brought to his constituency. Because what is his constituency? The army. The military, despite all the promises he made. So you see, when you watch at these things, how can you feel in your own constituency? And Buhari constituency is the military. The country nationwide security under Buhari has been muted in oil-rich Niger Delta. We have other militant and parade who sway away huge amount of Nigeria natural resources. But that peace seemed to have coincided. Let me say, when we are watching all of these things, you feel sick. You really feel sick. Like, there was also another discovery of a pipeline linking the Niger Delta directly to the oceans. And those pipelines would have not been successfully made without authorities, high-placed authorities who knew about it, who sponsored the project. So they were siphoning Nigerian oil. This is why some authorities even want the situation to continue compounding. So in so doing, they will have more money to gain. They really don't want peace. They don't want tranquility. They don't want government control. Because they know the more there is political volatile situation into the country, the higher opportunity they get to destroy Nigerian economy, maybe to keep things for themselves. The step skill under Buhari has become so heightened, absolutely so high. Mr. Buhari's integrity has also become questionable. Like, he failed to develop the health sector. Each time he's sick, he goes out for medication after pouring billions of dollars into the Nigerian health sector, yet he did not trust the system. He always goes out for medication. Even this so-called 70 years old who came into power is also seeking for medication out. So they don't trust the system. They know that the system is corrupt, the system is appalling, and they do not have enough on their own to control everything. This is why they actually have been very careful, destroying the very system that they created. And there is nothing much actually for the lay Nigerians to hope for. Reason being, even their government do not really trust the very system. Lack of transparency, drained taxpayers' money, it encourage illicit financial flow, establishing corruption is even enabling some of these politicians to stay onto power for quite a long time. They have a lot of administrative breach. There is no transparency in Nigeria. No transparency. Everything has just been maybe heightened. And most of what we are thinking about has actually, like, you have over four, let me just say, the administrations in terms of corruption is below belt. Then you have seen in other places where cabinet and its minister, where you may see a cabinet member and his wife who will go abroad using state money to stay long time, like in places like Dubai. They will corrupt offices and do whatsoever things that are definitely not part and parcel of standard. Mr. Buhari will be leaving the economy most likely to be remembered like maybe when he leaves, people will definitely remember him as one of the few presidents in Nigeria who carefully managed to butcher their economy. He butchered everything. So his earlier attempts to redesign the Nigerian economy did not do anything. You see? And otherwise, the rudimentary exercise descended into chaos as scarcity of the new Naira note. Like when he made an attempt to redesign the currency, it resulted into chaos because of shortage, hardship, and that would have even have a spilling effect on the election, which involved into a lot of chaotic situation. So Nigeria, most of the educated people lack education. Lack employment. Let's see. And otherwise, with the mental exercise descended into chaotic scarcity of the new Naira, which have now almost disappeared, resulting into untold hardship for millions in the country. If you watch at this, who rely on the cash for their basic need, the small businesses we are doing was destroyed by a man, by that man. That is why one trader is saying the small business we are doing was destroyed by a man, said a university student, graduate, and a trader in Abuja who made money by supplying banknotes to our customers before the cash crisis. This mobile banking money. Their anger has been fueled by lack of work for the educated. Those people with degree in Nigeria, even more than the population in Liberia and Sierra Leone. Those who have degrees in Nigeria, even the handicaps, just Nigeria handicaps are more than the population in Nigeria. So we are just seeing these things. Currently, Nigerians, you have 3 Nigerians who want to work, but unable to work. Currently, in any, currently 1 in 3 Nigerians who want to work are unable to find a job. 1 in any 3 Nigerians, they really want to work, but they are unable to find a job. So any 1 in 3 Nigerians, you count 1, 2, 3. They really have the ability to work, but they can't find a job. They can't find a job. That is why, if you get into like Liberia, you see a lot of Nigerian community coming to Sierra Leone. You see a lot of anywhere you go, you find them because they are too much. So we are seeing that most of those things, let's see, but some of it policies such as currency restriction, closing the land borders to boost local production have contributed towards record inflation that has made millions poorer, deflected a beacon in Nigeria middle class. What we are saying here, you cannot close your borders against your neighbor when you have little or nothing to feed yourself. You can't make an attempt to say, let me do this, let me try to narrow my means of production when you know you have the power of producing things and maybe stating the prices of those goods. Your export, the import is more than the export. So why are you making loss? How can you fix prices when what you are buying abroad is more than what you are sending abroad? Let's see this last one. Last week, in the end side, Mr. Buhari pleaded with lawmakers to hurriedly approve 800 million United States dollar loan from the World Bank. Nigeria's public debt could pass 150 billion this year. 150 billion United States dollar this year. What? When it took over, it stood at 60 billion. So have you seen it? So around 110 billion have been added by Buhari. When he took over newly 8 years ago, Nigeria had 60 billion United States dollar loan to pay. But Buhari is leaving 160 billion to pay. His borrowing spree has drawn warning from the World Bank, Africa's largest economy, using 96% of its revenue to service debt. So all the 96% of Nigeria's revenue is only used to serve debt. Look at it. The man came and only made 60 billion United States dollar as loan. Now he's leaving it with 160 billion. 150 billion, I mean. Meaning, he came and he cured a whopping amount of 90 billion loan added to it. I think those huge debts have managed to make the Nigerian society very poorer. As people are yearning for loan, there's lack of justice, killing, and whatsoever thing. So everything about Nigeria is definitely the fact that is that Nigerians, we are safer, better off, and less in debt before. Listen, the fact is that Nigeria, we are safer, better off, and less in debt before Mr. Buhari took over. And many will remember him for presiding over the toughest 8 years they might have ever faced. So when we are yearning for change, let's change. And may the change we are changing help to bring positive change on the continent. Thank you. Good night.